Okay, hi everyone, Daryl here. So this is lesson 41 in my Investing 101 playlist on my YouTube channel. So today we're going to talk about something that I got an email from. Uh, it's about this inverted yield curve. So what is an inverted yield curve? So an inverted yield curve is an interest rate environment in which the long-term bonds have a lower yield than short-term bonds. So typically when you go to the bank and you want to buy bonds, if you put money in a 2-year bond versus a 10-year bond, the 10-year bond typically will have higher yield. So if the 2-year bond is maybe paying, let's say, 1% per annum, the 10-year bond will pay you something maybe like 2% because they have to compensate you for leaving your money in a longer time period with the bank. Okay, so that brings me to my second point. So yields are usually higher on long-term bonds with longer maturity dates. And if an inverted yield curve happens, right, sometimes we refer to it as negative yield curve. Okay, so what it means is that uh, people are actually willing to take such low returns on long-term debt. It actually means that they do not think that inflation will be too high, as they expect the economy to grow more slowly in the future. So if let's say I think that in time to come, inflation will be extremely low, and only when the economy is very weak, right, inflation will be very low. So if I think that inflation will be very low, I don't mind putting my money into bonds, because if the bonds can give me a decent return of like 1 plus 2%, then I can actually still make do with that and get by with very, very low inflation. So it will not erode the value of my money. So it also means that the investors have lost confidence in the economy, and then they think that bonds may give them better returns compared to stocks, because they think that if let's say I leave my money in equities, I leave my money in the stock market, then if the stock market drops tremendously, right, then I will lose money. So instead of losing money, I will just go out and buy bonds. Okay, so eventually what happens is that demand for bonds will go up, and then yields will start to fall. Okay, so since 1955, the yield curve has inverted before every US recession. So what actually happened? Okay, the yield curve actually inverted briefly on 14th of August 2019. So just about a month ago, the yield curve inverted. So briefly, right, the US Treasury 2-year yields were actually higher than the 10-year yields. It actually meant that if you put money into a 10-year yield with the US Treasury, right, as in US Treasury bonds with 10-year yields, right, the 10-year yield is actually lower than the 2-year yield. Okay, the only reason that this can happen, right, is because the 10-year yields were so much in demand, right, that the interest rates for the 10-year yields had to fall. Okay, so as demand gets higher, right, more and more people demand for a certain product, you can actually get away with pricing the product a bit lesser, so that you will still get takers. Okay, so if let's say I needed to sell, I needed to entice people to put more money into 10-year yields, right? Typically, by right, the correct economic sense would be to price the 10-year yields higher than the 2-year yields. But for that brief moment, right, the 10-year yields were actually lower than the 2-year yields. So it made more sense to just put money into your 2-year yields. But that actually meant that there was actually a flight to safety. A lot of people actually took money out from the stock market and then started to put it into US Treasury bonds. Okay, it's a risk aversion move, and then it's something that we have to take note of. But also, a lot of times when the yield curve inverted, it meant that the recession is coming, and every time the yield curve has inverted, right, it resulted. I mean, it's not the cause; it's just an indication that the US is going to enter into recession. So for how long it will not, we do not know. There's no fixed formula to it, and it's also one thing to note that this inversion, right, was rather brief, but it still spooked investors. So actually, on that day, the US stock market actually took a nosedive. So I think it corrected quite a large amount. Yeah. So as investors, right, we have to take everything in its holistic view. That means that we have to look at what's happening on the stock market, what's happening in various property markets, and all the geopolitical factors. So this is one thing whereby a lot of people actually read up on, but they're not familiar with what inverted yield curve is. So this is my lesson on inverted yield curve. And that's all for me today, and I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.